Hey everybody, so this week we're going to be talking about Detective Pikachu, the new film starring Ryan Reynolds and Justin Smith and Bill Nighy and some other people. We're just going to talk about the movie, we're going to talk about its place in popular culture, and we're going to discuss this weird recent trend of, like, digital animal type creatures in movies that are more unsettling than they are adorable. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get notifications when I upload new videos. And let's get started. Before I go any further, I'm not going to go too deep into the actual reviewing Detective Pikachu. I know what the title of the video says. But I don't have a lot to say about the movie for real. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I think most people will watch it and think it's fun. I think it's a sweet little movie. My actual printed review for Spectrum Culture is in the description below if you want to read that. It's a neat movie. It's directed by Rob Letterman, who has like a background in both live action and animation. The movie's got like 6 or 7 writers, so right off the bat, you know the story is going to be good, right? No. One of those writers is Derek Connolly, who worked on Jurassic World and Safety Not Guaranteed with Colin Trevorrow. He's also one of the many writers on one of my favorite family films the last few years. People think I'm joking when I say I like this movie, but the movie Monster Trucks, with the giant truck that has an alien in it, I think that movie's adorable, and like more people should see it. I think it's great. Also, Nicole Perlman, one of the writers of the original Guardians of the Galaxy movie, she's credited in this as well. It's clearly a film where they were like, we need to make a movie based on Pokemon. We're going to use the Detective Pikachu spinoff game. We need as many people to write this as possible to make it fit as many quadrants and stuff. So it's a movie that's tighter than other blockbusters coming out this season, but it definitely still feels kind of bloated. The movie is literally like an hour and 40 minutes, and it feels like 2 hours, and it should have been like 90. And I know that 10, 15 minutes is like negligible, but trust me, when you're watching the movie, you're going to feel this should have been 10 minutes shorter. The basic premise is just that Justin Smith plays this dude Tim Goodman, who used to be a Pokemon trainer, and then he's not anymore, and now he's like an insurance adjuster or some shit. And his father is like a police detective. He goes missing, so he goes to this special city where Pokemon and humans like live together, like in harmony, kind of. The city is basically run by this weird corporation. And he meets a Pikachu who can talk, and he sounds like Ryan Reynolds. And this Pikachu used to work with his dad, so him and the Pikachu get together to try to figure out what happened to his dad and what this big mystery they were solving, all surrounding like a Mewtwo, like what's actually going on. The mystery itself is like kind of shit. It's actually really not very good. It also kind of doesn't matter. Really, the entire goal of this movie is for Warner Brothers to have, well, I guess it started out being with Universal, but Warner Brothers to have this big Pokemon movie and start a franchise using the world of Pokemon, because why wouldn't you, right? It's super popular. There's a rich mythology. There's a lot to play with. It's easy to sell to kids, easy to sell toys. But they didn't just want to keep doing, let's just do a live-action movie about Ash Ketchum and Misty and Brock and all them. They decided to go the Detective Pikachu route, which is a unique, interesting way to go about things. It's the sort of movie where I think if they'd had, like, Phil Lord and Chris Miller to work on it, or, like, those kind of people, or, like, those kind of writers, it would have been a lot more exciting. But instead, it's, like, pretty good. It's like solid. It's like, it's mostly fun. My biggest beef with the movie is just that it obviously owes a huge debt to another great live action animation mixture mystery movie, but it falls so far short of it that it was almost insulting. That movie, of course, is Robert Zemeckis' Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is one of the greatest movies ever made by human hands. And I think that the reason Who Framed Roger Rabbit works so well is because the special effects work in the movie is off the charts amazing. It still looks great, like, however many years later. And when you're watching it, part of the reason why it works so well is that the genre is adhered to, right? Like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is an animated movie for kids and families, but it still functions like an actual film noir. And the story, the structure, the tone, everything fits in that paradigm really, really well. So, like, even if you don't give a fuck about cartoons, or if you don't like whatever's going on, if you like that genre, you like mysteries, it's really engrossing. It's a lot smarter than a movie like that, has any right to be. Detective Pikachu is about exactly as smart as a movie like this needs to be to function, and not much smarter. It's, it's entertaining, like, it's fun to watch, but it just feels hollow isn't exactly the right term, because it's not empty. I mean, it's relatively heartfelt. It just isn't much more than that, Basically, if you go to see Detective Pikachu and you just want to see humans interacting with Pokemon in, like, a real live-action movie with a budget and stuff like that, you're good. Like, if you like Pokemon and you want to watch Pokemon on the screen, you're set. It's got tons of Pokemon, tons of cool little moments and Easter eggs and cute stuff. I'm not quite the authority on Pokemon the way I'm on like Marvel Comics or other types of things that turn into major blockbusters these days. I've watched the animated series here and there. I've seen a couple of the animated movies. I played Pokemon Go 2 years ago for like a month. And when I was a kid, I played Pokemon Red and Blue. And like that's basically like it. Like I know the original 151 and some of the newer ones. And like I think it's a fun world and game and stuff. But I'm not like, I personally was not someone who's like clamoring for a Pokemon movie. And personally, if I did want one, I would want one where Detective Pikachu was voiced by Danny DeVito, not Ryan Reynolds just doing his sort of perpetual snark thing where everything he says is like kind of a gag, but it's not really that funny. I happen to like Ryan Reynolds quite a bit. I think he's a very talented guy, and I'm so happy for him that he's actually like become a real movie star after all these years of toiling. But his presence in the movie does like literally nothing for me. And I don't know, it just felt like sort of like a PG-rated movie shtick version of like what he does in Deadpool, and I was like, oh, I'm so good on that. The interesting thing about the movie that I think we do need to talk about is the visuals, how it looks. Because this movie is being released right around the same time that the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer came out, where everyone and their mother was like, ew, why does Sonic look like that? This is fucking terrible. Please make this go away. To the point that the studio behind that movie is actually claiming they're going to like redesign Sonic to reach fans' complaints, which is like, I think kind of unlikely, nearly impossible, and also maybe like wrong-headed. I think just fucking own whatever your decisions were. You guys knew it looked weird when you fucking made it. But, you know, comparing the two movies, something that I remember, there was a recent interview where the cinematographer for Detective Pikachu, John Matheson, shot this movie on 35mm film. Very few blockbuster-type movies, or movies in general, get shot on film anymore. It's like a huge rarity. And he claims that the reason the Pokemon in this movie look better than they do he claims that the reason the Pokemon look better in Detective Pikachu than Sonic looks in Sonic the Hedgehog is because that movie shot digitally and this one was shot in 35, and that's why everything looks more realistic. That's not really necessarily true. Okay, the movie is shot in 35, and it does look very good. It's a very pretty movie. There's pretty rich colors, a lot of like detail. It looks fantastic, like for the most part. But that's not why the Pokemon look better. Like, shooting on 35 isn't going to make like digital renderings of fictional creatures look good. Like that's no. If anything, shooting on 35 is making the process of making those special effects and integrating them in the live action work more difficult. You're not actually enhancing it necessarily. No, the reason the Pokemon look better is because the Pokemon are better integrated into the live action real world they've created. Okay, like this isn't a thing where there's like one random aberration and then a bunch of normal people like the Sonic trailer. In Sonic, that looks like a totally regular, boring, normal, real world. Like a romantic comedy could take place in that and look fine. The only thing that's different is Sonic, and he looks fucking weird. To have Sonic look that way in that trailer is strange, because it's clearly the design for Sonic was, let's make him more realistic. Let's have him have real fur and look more like a real hedgehog. But he's not a real hedgehog. He's a fucking video game cartoon character. He doesn't have to look real. He's not real. He's in the real world, and he doesn't belong there, so he can look like whatever. He's always going to stick out. You know, imagine Who Framed Roger Rabbit if Roger Rabbit didn't look like a cartoon in a real-life world. He was like a weird, anthropomorphic, actual bunny. That'd be fucking odd, you know what I mean? It doesn't... You have to... When you make these designs, you have to think of what kind of story you're telling, okay? In Pokemon, they're telling a story in the world of Pokemon. In the world of Pokemon, there are humans, and there are Pokemon, and they interact. Like, it's a fact of the world that these things exist. So you would want them to look somewhat realistic, because they're just a part of this world, but you still want them to have the kind of animated caricature emotionality that the animated counterparts have, right? You want them to look, you know, expressive and like fun and adorable and cute and all that stuff, but also a little bit more real. And I think the designs for all the Pokemon, especially Pikachu, like there's a Charizard that shows up, like Mewtwo, they all look like a very good middle ground compromise between hyper-realistic, you know, real, unsettling animals and complete cartoons. Like, I think it's a really good balance. And that's how the world in the film is production designed. Everything in it looks similar to the backgrounds of the worlds we've seen in the animated series and the video game, but a little bit like our own. It's a really good balance, I would say. But where I think Detective Pikachu goes a little bit wrong is in the action sequences. I don't know if it's just like cutting corners with budget or like time constraints and stuff, but having shot it on film, and then the way the special effects are rendered, there are certain sequences in the movie where things just look weird. It's not quite like a real Uncanny Valley situation, but just like the speed, the motion, it feels a little bit like the way higher frame rates look, like in The Hobbit or Ang Lee's upcoming Gemini Man movie. But it's not that. It just, I don't know exactly what it is. And, I tried to research a little bit. I didn't really see anyone else talking about it. But, like, when you watch some of the sequences, especially when things are a little more fast-paced, everything just looks odd. There's like a little bit of like an After Effect blur to it. And it sticks out because the rest of the movie looks so nice and looks so normal and looks so, unique compared to other things that are coming out this summer, I would say. So that type of stuff really stuck out to the point where I'm like, maybe you guys shouldn't brag about having shot on 35 if making that compromise and shooting on the older format meant that your post-production pipeline and stuff was like not as efficient as other movies that come out. I mean, maybe that's not really what it is. Maybe it'll look better on like home video. Maybe the auditorium I saw it at had like a projection setting issue or something. Like there's all sorts of weird things that affect the look of movies in modern days. But it did stick out to me. I did think it was odd, and I do think more. I think that's one of the things holding the movie back. The other thing holding Detective Pikachu back is just its story is bland and uninteresting, and I don't think that they did as much to recreate what everyone loves about mystery movies. To the point that they may as well have cut out the entire detective part of Detective Pikachu and just made it about him hanging out with a Pikachu that talks, because I really would have liked more of that, more of like the actual like neo-noir element, and I never thought that stuff was as well handled in the movie as it could have been. But back to the weird furry creature phenomenon. One of the things I think we're losing in this era as we move towards doing this all the time is that these things don't need to always be realistic. Like, I understand that every year now Disney's going to put out live-action remakes of things they've already made in 2D animation, and I don't need, like, a realistic beast from Beauty and the Beast. I don't need Dumbo with an actual, like, looking like a real elephant. I don't need at all. I didn't need the Jungle Book. I certainly don't need the Lion King. I can watch interesting nature documentaries and Planet Earth and stuff like that about, really beautiful high-res footage of animals doing animal things. I don't need fantastical animated stories about animals that can talk that look like normal-ass animals. They're going to be way less expressive. They're going to be way less capable of, like, getting certain things across. I mean, on some levels, those things will be neat and more nuanced, but, like, does anyone really need that? Is anyone really clamoring for the Lion King, but for them to be real, actual lions that all look indistinguishable? I don't understand the purpose of that, and I think it's the same impulse that is the reason Sonic looks so fucking weird. You need to understand why you're designing your creatures to look this way and what kind of story you want to tell. Obviously for Disney, it's just a matter of throwing a lot of money at old properties and making them seem fresh and new, and because people paid a lot to see the Jungle Book, they're going to keep doing it until people stop. So obviously their creative process is flawed there, but it's making them money, so they're not going to stop doing that. I'm just going to write that off entirely. But something like Sonic to me seems like a weird problem. The only other movie I can think of in recent memory that does this thing pretty well is like the Paddington movies. In those movies, Paddington is, Paddington Bear, like the cute animal from the storybooks and stuff. And, he looks more like a real bear than you would have in an older Paddington movie or story, right? But he fits so seamlessly into the world around him, and the voice acting is so strong, and the storytelling is so strong that it doesn't really matter how he looks. It just matters that you believe him as a real person and a real character, because the story they're telling is about this, like, wayward bear who becomes a part of a family. So him kind of seeming like he doesn't fit into the frame and then becoming an indistinguishable part of it is part of his growth and arc as a character. He starts off being like this random bear and then becomes like, a sibling, a son, a child or whatever. So it makes sense that he looks the way he does, and it helps the story along. That's like good design. Or the Christopher Robin movie. Like, it makes sense that Winnie the Pooh and all the 100 Acre Wood characters look a little bit unsettling in their realism because they're trying to interact with, like, an adult version of Christopher Robin. The movie has heavy shades of, like, Steven Spielberg's Hook, where you're taking something from childhood and juxtaposing it with, like, the drab darkness of, like, and the gray morality of adulthood. So it's okay that they look weird because, like, their presence in his life is kind of weird. and it makes the movie kind of bittersweet, but it still works. It fits the function and themes of the film. What are they doing with Sonic exactly? Like, is it just a story about Sonic coming into the real world and then trying to warn them that, like, Robotnik's going to kill them all or something? Like, I don't fully understand the plot, and I don't intend to. But everything about that look is, like, clearly these designers thought, how do we make a Sonic that's more realistic so he'll fit in the real world? Not at all seeming to think about the fact that this is the real world, and he doesn't belong there, so why would he fit? Like, he's not supposed to be from there. I don't think they're going to reveal that there's, like, a secret island that Sonic is from. It's probably going to be something where he's coming from, like, another dimension, another world, another universe, in which case he should look like an aberration, which would mean you have the room to play to make him less realistic, more cartoonish, give him big bug eyes, make him talk about chili dogs and stuff. Like, don't make him so normal and real as to make people unsettled. You want kids to come buy toys and stuff, and you want families to be able to sit through these movies together. They don't need to have this horrific Lovecraftian disaster before their eyes. So that's what I think about this weird trend of these fucking strange-looking creatures. I think Detective Pikachu gets it closer to right than a lot of other things. I hope for the Sonic movie to be a success. I like Sonic. I like movies in general. I don't want things to fail, but it does look like dog shit. But I think I would admire them more if they just kept it and stuck with how it is and just told the fans to go fuck themselves. More and more, I think that giving into these weirdo mobs is, like, bad, and I think it's wrong. And I think if you don't like the Sonic design, don't go see the Sonic movie, and then it'll fail, and then the next time they try one, they'll learn from their mistakes. I don't think that, like, starting weird crowd campaigns and asking them to do it and thinking about how much fucking weird extra labor they're going to put on the special effects department to do this and turn around in time for the movie to come out, I don't think that's the wave or the move at all. And I really hope they change their minds and say, fuck it, we're just putting this out, suck our dicks. That's what the real Sega would do. Detective Pikachu, sweet movie, fun. If you have kids, take them. If you like Pokemon, you can go watch it. But temper your expectations. Maybe if they make a sequel, they'll learn from this one and make it a little more exciting. As it stands now, it's like a nice, fun little movie. It's decent, you know? So that's it. That's my take on Detective Pikachu, and also Sonic and the other things. If you guys disagree with me on any of these things, please, you can go to the comments right now and call me all sorts of names. Defend your beloved blue hedgehog. Maybe there's someone who's already really into the weird, furry version of Sonic and is, like, making all sorts of stuff on DeviantArt about it. If you want to share that, you can. Please don't. As you can see from this video, we're moving to Fridays being new upload videos. The next video will be next Friday. For the next little bit, I'm going to try to mostly focus on new release films because a ton of stuff is coming out this summer, and we're just going to give that a shot. Hopefully you guys like it. And, yep, all right. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye.